maybe a band feels there's plenty of energy with her pretty energetic vocals and the bass kind of behind it. This is kind of a vocal and bass song. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. Libel is from Tilt's second studio album, Till It Kills, released in 1995. And once again, this is another Fat Records release. And we have arrived here today because our wonderful Patreon community voted this track in second place last month. And I want to send a special shout out to Caleb Loudon and Mark L. over there for requesting this one. Tilt is fronted by a vocalist named Cinder Block, who I actually first heard during the holidays last year on Patreon, where we did a mixtape special punk rock Christmas episode. And I heard her guest vocals on No Use for a Name's cover of Fairy Tale in New York. And then just last month here on the channel, we heard the Good Riddance track, A Credit to His Gender, where she also provided guest vocals, but it's finally time to hear her main band, Tilt, front and center. And apparently she writes all the music as well for the band, at least for this album. So without further ado, here is Libel from Tilt. Ooh. Nice crunchy, throaty jazz bass tone. Okay, I see a Fender headstock. It's got to be a jazz bass. Yeah. Okay, as we do these videos, it's worth pointing this out. You guys should try to get really good at recognizing the difference between a P bass sound and a jazz bass sound. Precision bass versus jazz bass. They are very different despite both being typically Fender basses. This is a Galveston brand bass. I've never heard of the brand before. I still don't know anything about them. This was actually the first bass I ever owned. I got this for $75 at a pawn shop when I was in 9th grade in high school. It turned out to be a really fun bass to play and surprisingly plays really well. But if I play the same part as this intro here, I think he was playing an E, D sharp, F sharp, something like that. Let me hear it again, but you can kind of A-B the two because this is a really classic jazz bass sound, and I've got a pretty classic P bass sound here dialed in, and it's worth just knowing those differences if you're listening for bass lines, as I've instructed all of you to do. All right, let's hear it again. Okay, it's got that kind of thin, gurgly, it's kind of throaty sounding versus a P bass. Bigger, bassier, woofier. Versus this kind of thinner, tighter, punchier sound. Okay, just worth pointing that out. Another cool song starting with a bass intro. And she sounds like a really trained vocalist. I kind of thought this a while back. Nice fills. Tearing up a pinball machine? Sometimes I want to do that when I play those. I suck at them. A cool thing here too is I like when they keep the bass driving like that on eighth notes, but the guitar doesn't necessarily follow its energy. I feel like the guitars are just letting chords ring out while the bass still changes under it. If you go back to about right here, it's a good move that doesn't let all of the energy out so soon. It kind of saves it and rations it for a chorus. And there's so many different permutations of like dynamics and songwriting. So, you know, it's fun to just hear 2 songs a week and just see how all these bands do it differently, especially within this punk rock genre. See, chorus is high energy. Goes back to verse 2. You'll hear the guitars just kind of ring out, it sounds like. You're just kind of letting them ring, but you still have the bass. And dynamics like this are important because you want to have some contrast between the verse and the chorus. I mean, this is 101 stuff for songwriting, but I think what's cool is seeing how every band sort of takes that approach differently. When they really think about songwriting, where's the climax in the song? Where are the low points? There's so many different ways to go about it, and they're all equally as effective. But I find punk rock really leans on the bass for the foundation of that. So that's really demonstrated well here. And it's just a really cutting tone. Jazz bass tones cut through so well. I think they cut through a lot better than P bass tones, but maybe don't have that thumpy bottom end. And sometimes the songwriting style can be complemented by a jazz bass tone or more by a P bass tone. So it's something I haven't talked about a lot, but you can just really, I guess, having a P bass and a jazz bass here in the song, it's worth kind of pointing out how they support the mix and the production. Okay. Yeah, just kind of soft chords. Nice fills happening. Oop, turn the volume up. A lot of little walking fills there. Da, 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 da. Good backup vocals. What's happening here kind of supports what I just said. This is a pretty high energy section. It's really carried by the vocals. She's gone up in range. The bass is still moving. But when you listen to those guitar parts, they're still not like full bore. They're hitting chords. It's got distortion, which naturally provides like energy type of texture to the song, but it's still just not, they're not really strumming them hard. Unless they were and I just wasn't really listening. Here. Kind of sounds like they're just hitting it, and you just don't hear a lot of that separation. I just hear a chord happening, but it's maybe a rationing thing with the song energy, or maybe a band feels there's plenty of energy with her pretty energetic vocals and the bass kind of behind it. This is kind of a vocal and bass song. It's pretty interesting, and I want to comment on her vocals as well because I didn't mention this in the intro. Let me pull back up the page I was reading. I was reading here that Cinder Block cited theater as an inspiration growing up. She enjoyed lots of plays, and where was this line? Something about she actually earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater Arts, acting and directing. Acting and directing from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I thought that was an interesting point because I spent a lot of time playing theater when I was younger. I was gigging a lot in that circuit here in my town, and I got to be friends with a lot of the vocalists. And I remember playing in the pit orchestra. Sometimes we were on stage, but you had a lot of these students who were so good at theater, amazing voices, but they never really played in like traditional rock bands. And I just saw the way they projected, because they're trained to project to the very last seat in an auditorium, and the way they were theatrical in their stage presence. I always thought, man, they would make amazing frontmen and women for bands. Like these kids have it. They're really talented, but they're just in this theater mindset. So I'm hearing her voice and it sounds trained. I mentioned that point earlier. She has just like a really good pitch and vibrato, and it just has that really projecting kind of over enunciated, the way she sings the lyrics. Again, I'm not a vocal channel, but this has kind of stuck out to me because I've spent a lot of time in theater. And I always found that contrast between film, where it's about subtlety, and theater, where it's about over-exaggeration. And again, really making the subtle things you do as an actor or actress really be obvious, even if you're sitting on the last row. So I'm kind of looking at her presentation, her vocal projection style, and just kind of reminded me of that. And it dawned on me reading that on her bio that she had some experience with it. So really cool and worth mentioning. Got some pipes. It just adds so much energy to the song. Let's go back to about here and keep it going. It's just, I can hear that inspiration, that background a little bit. Just wailing. Beating the shit out of that pinball machine. Piano. I've mentioned this a few times in other videos, but it's always fun when there's an official music video for a song I'm doing. I want to go back and watch that part. these videos just had to be so much fun to make. I remember saying that about the Mighty Boss Tones video. Videos that just made you feel like you wanted to be there. That was a really big kind of X factor about 90s music videos. They just had that magic nth degree of fun. Like you just kind of wish you were there. I don't know if I'd want to be there when they're tearing stuff up and destroying stuff, but it surely is fun to watch, and I'm sure it was a blast to make. But another thing I wanted to mention listening to this bass part, it's nothing crazy or groundbreaking, but I really like that the bass is moving so much that it makes a simple chord progression feel more alive. And if you're ever in a situation like that where you're writing a simple song or you're playing for a simple song, and simple songs are totally okay. I love simple songs, but one way you can really give them a bit of dimension is to keep the bass part moving and kind of glue the chords together and be a little extra with it. So right here in this song, it's kind of going between E major, F sharp major, B major, sort of a 1-4-5 or a 4-5-1 thing maybe. And I hear a lot of this. Just kind of running the scales at the last second before changing chords. And I think if you took 3 chords that all share the same note bank, because we're in the key of B major, I believe, if it's going 4, 5, 1, and they go to that A flat minor or G sharp minor every now and then. But you can kind of run the scales and arrange your notes in a way where when you land on those notes, it's on the downbeat. So in a way, you can kind of just go. And if you just arrange them in a clever way and just do a little bit of simple math, you can kind of run those scales and give a lot of dimension and a lot of movement, add a lot of energy to the song, and you're really still just playing a 3-chord progression. So it sounds like that bass player is taking a page out of that book here, especially this section here, just kind of keeping it moving. Great approach there. All this stuff. Good. When it rides on the 5 chord for a while. Just keeping it moving, even staying stationary in 1 chord, going to the note below it, maybe to the note above it. So, brilliant, simple way just to add energy to a 3-chord progression. It works. That's a cool vocal melody, da-da-da-da. She's really snappy with the pitch there. I mean, it takes some control vocally to do that, so further supports that you can kind of hear that theater background maybe come out a bit in her performance vocally. Cool flavor for punk rock. It's very emphatic. Kind of guessing. Follow me. You can really understand what she's saying too. That was an extremely catchy vocal melody in the chorus. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. The way she sings it was the catchy part, her enunciation. And I think this was a great song to just showcase a rather simple bass part, but still be sort of really in the spotlight. I feel like this song was a real big vocal and bass duet with a little guitar and drums underneath it to elevate it. It's kind of how it comes across to me. It has a lot to do with the bass being mixed louder. Of course, you're primed to think about the bass when you start a song with a bass intro. It's one of my favorite things about punk rock. I feel like I just say it in every video now, but it's so damn true. You hear the bass by itself, and then when the rest of the song starts playing, you can't unhear it by that point. Whereas, you have this running joke and stereotype of the bass being inaudible in rock and roll because classic rock always started songs with guitar. You just never really thought about the bass because you weren't hearing it. So I love that thing about this, and I love her unique pairing vocally with some of these punk rock flavors musically. And if you want to support the channel and be a part of this, please come find us over on patreon.com/LoneUniversity. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I love you all, and we'll see you in the next one.